The Silent Reckoning. The Galaxy ships appeared without warning in Earth's orbit on a quiet Tuesday morning in 2157. 7 massive vessels, each the size of Manhattan, positioned themselves over major population centers. Humanity had long prepared for first contact, but not like this, not with dreadnoughts whose weapon arrays glowed with barely contained energy. Admiral Helena Reyes stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, Earth's newest and most advanced warship. A vessel that had seemed impressive yesterday now felt like a child's toy in comparison to the alien behemoths. All attempts at communication have failed. Admiral, Lieutenant Commander Javier Mendoza reported, his voice betraying the tension they all felt. They're not responding on any frequency. Reyes nodded grimly. At 53, she had spent her entire career preparing for threats that most dismissed as paranoid fantasy. Keep broadcasting the first contact protocol. And get me Dr. Wei on a secure line. Dr. Lian Wei had become the most important person on Earth overnight. As the foremost xenotechnology specialist at the Global Science Initiative, she was humanity's best hope for understanding the visitors. They're deploying something. Tactical Officer Cato announced, her eyes fixed on the sensor readings. Thousands of small objects descending into the atmosphere. Within hours, the Galaxy strategy became clear. The objects weren't weapons but automated mining drones. They began systematic extraction operations across the planet, harvesting rare elements with ruthless efficiency. When military forces attempted to intervene, precise energy strikes from orbit eliminated the resistance. 3 days after their arrival, the Galaxy finally responded to humanity's communications with a simple message. Your resources are now under Imperium management. Resistance is inefficient and will result in population reduction. The global response was immediate and unified. Humanity would not surrender its home without a fight. But conventional weapons proved useless against Galaxy shields. Nuclear strikes were attempted but were somehow neutralized before detonation. Earth's first space battle lasted less than 30 minutes, with all human vessels destroyed or disabled. All except the research vessel Prometheus, which Dr. Wei had convinced Admiral Reyes to hold in reserve. In a secret facility beneath the Antarctic ice, Dr. Wei worked feverishly alongside a team of Earth's brightest minds. The Prometheus had managed to collect detailed scans of the Galaxy vessels before retreating. Their shield technology operates on principles we've theorized but never implemented, Wei explained to Admiral Reyes, projecting a complex energy pattern. They're using quantum field manipulation to create phase-shifted defensive barriers. Can we penetrate them? Reyes asked, cutting to the heart of the matter. Wei's eyes gleamed with the fire of discovery. Better. We can turn their shields against them. Look here, she pointed to fluctuations in the pattern. Their shields periodically synchronize to a central frequency to maintain cohesion. That creates a momentary vulnerability. Milliseconds only, but it's there. How do we exploit a vulnerability that lasts milliseconds? With this, Wei brought up schematics for a device unlike anything Reyes had seen. We're calling it the harmonic disruptor. It doesn't try to breach their shields directly. It introduces a cascading resonance pattern that amplifies with each shield synchronization cycle. Like pushing a swing at precisely the right moment, Reyes observed. Exactly. Eventually, the amplitude becomes so great that the shield collapses completely. What followed was the most ambitious covert manufacturing operation in human history. As the Galaxy continued their systematic harvesting, seemingly oblivious to the remaining human resistance, hundreds of small facilities, hidden in mountains, underwater, and in abandoned mine shafts began producing components for Wei's harmonic disruptors. Meanwhile, Admiral Reyes implemented what she called the Lazarus Protocol, salvaging and repairing damaged spacecraft, retrofitting civilian vessels, and constructing new fighters in hidden shipyards. Each would be equipped with Wei's disruptors. 3 months after the invasion began, humanity was ready to strike back. The attack began at precisely 300 UTC. 500 small craft launched simultaneously from hidden locations around the globe. The Galaxy defenses responded immediately, but they had grown complacent after months of minimal resistance. Captain Maya Santos led the first wave aboard the retrofitted mining vessel she'd renamed Vengeance. "Remember the approach vector," she reminded her volunteer crew. "We need to maintain exact formation to synchronize the disruptor fields." The first wave took devastating losses. Nearly 60% of the craft destroyed before they could even activate their disruptors. But those that survived followed the plan perfectly, creating a precisely calibrated energy field around the first Galaxy dreadnought. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then, as Dr. Wei had predicted, the alien shield began to vibrate visibly, energy patterns destabilizing in cascading waves. "It's working," Santos transmitted to the remaining fleet. "Maintain position." The shield collapsed with a burst of energy that temporarily blinded orbital sensors. When visibility returned, the massive Galaxy vessel was exposed, its hull vulnerable to conventional weapons for the first time. The second wave didn't hesitate, launching everything they had at the unprotected dreadnought. Missiles designed to penetrate bunkers struck critical systems. High-yield explosives detonated against hull sections. The enormous ship began to list in orbit, secondary explosions visible across its surface. Admiral Rice watched from the command center beneath Antarctica, her expression resolute. "Redirect forces to Target 2. Same approach." By dawn, 3 of the 7 Galaxy vessels had been destroyed or disabled. The remaining 4 attempted to regroup, adjusting their shield frequencies. But Dr. Wei had anticipated this. "They're trying to adapt," she explained. "But each adjustment narrows their options. Our disruptors are already reconfiguring to match." The 4th dreadnought fell by midday. The 5th and 6th by early evening. The Galaxy mining operations had ceased entirely, the drones falling inactive without command signals from their motherships. The final dreadnought attempted to flee, maneuvering to escape Earth's gravity well. It broadcast a wideband transmission, not aimed at Earth, but outward, toward distant stars. "They're calling for reinforcements," Wei realized. "Then we need to finish this now," Rice decided. "All remaining forces, pursue and engage." The ensuing battle lasted nearly 5 hours as the dreadnought fought desperately to escape while maintaining its transmission. When it finally succumbed to humanity's relentless assault, Admiral Rice allowed herself a moment of satisfaction before addressing the grim reality. "We've won this battle," she told the assembled military and scientific leadership, "but the war is just beginning. They know we're here now. They know we can fight." Dr. Wei nodded thoughtfully. "Then we need to bring the fight to them." In the debris field that had once been the Galaxy fleet, human engineers and scientists swarmed over the alien technology, reverse engineering everything they could. The discoveries they made would change humanity's understanding of physics and redefine what was possible. The most significant find came from the command core of the 3rd dreadnought, navigational data containing the coordinates of Galaxy space and, more importantly, the specifications for their faster-than-light dry systems. 6 months after repelling the invasion, the first human-made FTL drive was successfully tested. 3 months after that, humanity had built its first true warship incorporating salvaged and improved Galaxy technology. They named it Nemesis. Admiral Rice stood on its bridge, surveying her crew as they prepared for humanity's first voyage beyond the solar system. "Set course for the Galaxy homeworld," she ordered. "It's time they learned what happens when you attack Earth." Ascension Protocol. The Galactic Assembly had not convened an emergency session in over 300 cycles. Yet now, representatives from 17 spacefaring civilizations gathered in the vast chamber on Nexus Station, their discussions filled with urgency and concern. "The reports are confirmed," announced Arbiter Felix, the Axlorian diplomat who had called the session. "A Galaxy harvester fleet has been completely destroyed by a pre-FTL species." Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the chamber. "Impossible," declared war strategist Zgvorin of the Mithridian Compact. "The Galaxy possess Class 9 shield technology. A pre-FTL civilization would have no defense against such forces, let alone offensive capabilities. Nevertheless, Felix continued, displaying the intercepted distress call from the final Galaxy vessel. The evidence is irrefutable. The species, self-identified as humans, not only repelled the harvesters, but have since reverse-engineered Galaxy technology and launched a counteroffensive. On the other side of the galaxy, Admiral Reyes watched as the Nemesis and its escort fleet of 12 vessels emerged from FTL at the edge of Galaxy-controlled space. The journey had taken 3 weeks, during which Earth had continued building more ships incorporating the alien technology. Long-range scans active, Lieutenant Commander Mendoza reported. We're detecting significant military presence. 17 vessels of varying configurations, all larger than our own. Dr. Wei, who had insisted on joining the expedition, studied the sensor data. Their shield configurations are similar to those we encountered at Earth, but with variations. They've attempted to address the vulnerability. Will our disruptors still work? Reyes asked. Yes, but we'll need to get closer, much closer. And they'll likely adapt more quickly this time. Reyes considered their options. Humanity's fleet was outnumbered, and despite their technological leap, still outgunned. A direct confrontation would be costly. We need to change the paradigm, she decided. Tactical, identify their command and communication structures. We're not here to fight a conventional battle. We're here to send a message. Back at the Galactic Assembly, the debate had intensified. Intelligence reports indicated that the human fleet had reached Galaxy territory and somehow neutralized their border defenses without detection. This cannot be allowed to continue, insisted Supreme Commander Vrax of the Galaxy delegation. The humans have violated sovereign Imperium space and stolen proprietary technology. We demand Assembly sanction for a full punitive response. Arbiter Felix remained thoughtful. Perhaps we should consider why the humans have launched this counteroffensive. Was the initial Galaxy expedition to Earth sanctioned by this assembly? Vrax's expression hardened. The Imperium does not require sanction to harvest resources from pre-FTL worlds. This has been our right since joining the assembly. A right increasingly questioned by many members, noted Elder Shirath of the Elysian Concord, particularly when exercised against worlds showing signs of imminent technological breakthrough. Within Galaxy space, the human fleet executed what Admiral Reyes had dubbed Operation Thunderclap. Rather than engaging the superior Galaxy forces directly, they utilized their smaller, more maneuverable vessels in precisely coordinated strikes against communication arrays and sensor networks. They're blind in Sector 7, reported Captain Santos, now commanding the UES Vengeance, moving to Phase 2 targets. The Nemesis itself, with its enhanced stealth systems adapted from Galaxy technology, approached the orbital defense platform protecting the Imperium's primary shipyard. At extreme close range, they deployed multiple harmonic disruptors, calibrated to the updated Galaxy shield frequencies. Disruptors active, Wei confirmed. Shield collapse in 3, 2, 1. The massive defense platform's shields failed catastrophically, leaving it vulnerable to the targeted strike that followed. The Nemesis didn't destroy it. Instead, they disabled its primary systems and uploaded a message directly to its core. Similar scenarios played out across 7 critical Galaxy installations. Within hours, the human fleet had systematically neutralized the Imperium's defensive capabilities without destroying a single Galaxy vessel. When they finally encountered direct resistance from a Galaxy battle group, Admiral Reyes opened communications. Attention Galaxy forces, we have disabled your primary defense and communication systems. We have demonstrated our ability to neutralize your technological advantages. We are now broadcasting evidence of your unprovoked attack on Earth to all members of the Galactic Assembly. On view screens throughout Galaxy space and across the Assembly, the message continued. Humanity does not seek war, but we will not tolerate aggression. Return to your space. Acknowledge our sovereignty. Establish diplomatic relations, or face the consequences of continued hostility. The Galactic Assembly fell silent as they witnessed the human fleet's systematic dismantling of Galaxy defenses, a feat that spacefaring civilizations with centuries more development had never accomplished. How? Demanded war strategist Gavorin. How has this pre-FTL species achieved in months what the Mithridian Compact couldn't accomplish in decades of conflict? Elder Shirath leaned forward, eyes gleaming with interest. Perhaps we have underestimated this species. Their approach is unconventional. They identified and exploited weaknesses we never considered. They're dangerous, Supreme Commander Vrax insisted. The Assembly must act to contain this threat before other species follow their example. Or, suggested Arbiter Felix, we could recognize that the paradigm has shifted. The humans have not expanded beyond defending their territory and seeking accountability for aggression against them. Perhaps it is time for the Assembly to reconsider its policies regarding emerging worlds. The debate continued for days while humanity maintained its position in Galaxy space, neither advancing further nor retreating. Earth continued building ships and improving upon the alien technology they'd acquired. Finally, a delegation from the Galactic Assembly arrived at the edge of Galaxy territory, requesting communication with the human fleet. Admiral Reyes and Dr. Wei represented humanity in the first official diplomatic contact with the wider galactic community. We recognize the sovereign right of humanity to defend itself, Arbiter Felix began. The Assembly wishes to establish formal relations with Earth and offers membership among the spacefaring civilizations. And the Galaxy? Reyes asked directly. The Imperium has agreed to reparations for the unauthorized harvesting operation and will respect Earth's territorial boundaries. Felix confirmed, though the statement clearly pained the Galaxy representatives present. Dr. Wei studied the gathered aliens carefully. We accept the offer of diplomatic relations, but Earth will require time to consider Assembly membership. We have much to learn about galactic politics and the obligations such membership would entail. What neither the humans nor the Assembly representatives fully appreciated in that moment was how profoundly humanity's entrance onto the galactic stage would change the established order. Within a decade, Earth would become the center of a coalition of younger species, advocating for reform within the Assembly. Human ingenuity, combined with their willingness to share technological advancements, shifted power away from the ancient empires that had dominated for millennia. The Galaxy Imperium, once the unquestioned military power in 3 sectors, found itself increasingly isolated as its former subject worlds aligned with humanity. Their attempted retaliation 20 years later was met with a defense so overwhelming that it permanently ended their expansionist policies. A century after the initial Galaxy invasion of Earth, humanity had established colonies on 73 worlds across 4 sectors. The harmonic disruptor technology had evolved into an entirely new branch of physics, revolutionizing energy generation and propulsion systems throughout the galaxy. Admiral Reyes, long since retired and in her final years, sat with Dr. Wei on the observation deck of Nexus Station, watching the assembled ships of 24 species participate in joint exercises, many of them commanded by human officers or utilizing human-developed technology. Did you ever imagine this? Wei asked, gesturing to the spectacular display of interstellar cooperation. Reyes smiled. Not in my wildest dreams. I just wanted to protect Earth. We did more than that, Wei observed. We changed the rules of the game. As the human vessels executed a perfectly synchronized maneuver that had become the signature of Earth's space forces, representatives from across the galaxy watched with a mixture of admiration and unease. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage not as supplicants or victims, but as innovators and leaders. The day humanity's Armada entered the stars, every empire yielded, not to conquest or intimidation, but to the undeniable force of human potential unleashed.